Hey guys, I need to make this video for no other reason than just vent how I feel about the current state of Monster Hunter. I want to preface this by saying that I like Monster Hunter Wilds. I think it's a great game and a great starting point for beginners. But sadly, just like World before it, I think it's a mediocre Monster Hunter game. If you're a fan of World or starting off with Wilds, I'm sure you will find some of my opinions disagreeable. But know that they come from a place of deep love for this franchise and wanting it to be the best version of itself. So here's a little background on my Monster Hunter journey so that you understand better where my opinions are coming from and the basis from where they originated. I started with Freedom Unite on the PSP back in 2009 and fell in love with it. Everything from the music, the monster designs, the combat, the weapons, the locales. The game clicked with me like few games had at that point. Then I played Portable Third with an English patch since it was never localized. I did not play it a lot, but I remember thoroughly enjoying the theme, the village, the monsters, especially Zinogre, probably one of my favorites. I took a hiatus from the franchise until Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate was available. I spoke to a friend about getting the game and hunting together, as the 3DS had a local co-op, like the PSP games, which I never got to enjoy since I never knew anyone else that played Monster Hunter. We bought the game and put nearly 300 hours into it, playing many times during sleepovers and hunting G-Rank monsters non-stop. Alatron and Goldbeard Cetus are fights that I remember fondly. Then Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, which would become my absolute favorite and most played game of the franchise, clocking in at over 500 hours. I could not get enough of it. My pastime towards the end was simply helping newer hunters with their key quests so they could experience the peak that was Fatalis, Dalamadur, and Gogmasios. After 4U, I was a bit burnt out on the series, so I did not play Generations for too long. I would say I got halfway through high rank and then put the game down, by no fault of its own. I just had played too much for a couple years straight. And when Monster Hunter World got announced, I jumped from my seat with excitement. Like, a new Monster Hunter game with modern graphics on PS4? Sign me up. If anyone here is a vet, you might remember the Chinese Monster Hunter Online and how awesome that looked. I thought we would be getting something similar visual-wise. I played World, and slowly but surely, I was noticing left and right changes that in my opinion were detrimental to the formula, such as the movement while drinking, mantles, monsters being much easier, the incredibly convoluted map design that at times felt like I was fighting the map to get around it more than fighting the monster itself, the lackluster weapon designs, the ice sword that were the scalp flies, and much, much more. Even then, I played the game to completion, and I can't say that I had a bad time as I played with friends, but internally, I was worried. Worried that so many changes made to the core of the game would carry over to future games, further streamlining established systems. At the time, I had no YouTube channel or any way to voice concerns, so I simply moved on to the next game. Come Rise and its expansion Sunbreak, I saw many of the things I disliked about World Present, and even some new, such as seeing monsters on the map at all times, and the incredibly flashy moves with wire bugs, but I also saw things that I missed, such as a proper village and hub-quest split. The UI was much closer to the old school games, the maps felt like a true evolution of the old zone-based maps, now expanded, and many other things. Overall, I enjoyed Rise more than World, and in part, it being a portable in nature, as I believe Monster Hunter is better when in a handheld, but also because of its roster, better maps, and weapon designs. That brings us to today with Monster Hunter Wilds. The game has fantastic production values. The new monsters are amazing, with Raidao probably being my favorite of the newcomers. All of the armor and weapons are sick, and the gameplay feels as good as always. However, that's probably as much good as I have to say about Wilds despite still liking it. Wilds' story feels at best mediocre, and at worst is intrusive against the way of the actual game. Although there is an attempt at characters, they lack depth and some feel forced, such as Nata. The ride-along exposition dump sections are tedious and go on for far too long, especially in a game so focused on getting you to the fight as fast as possible. The story was bad in World, and it's still bad here. I'm disappointed that Capcom continues to force a mediocre story on players that does not add any substance to the actual hunts. If we're going to have a story, have a bit closer to something like Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, which had an okay story at best, but was not offensive, and it didn't get in your way. Additionally, I think we have lost the humor in Monster Hunter dialogue. Every character in World and Wilds just feels so serious and devoid of cheeky conversations, like in the older games. That's all I'll say about the story for now. It's not particularly great, and it gets in the way of the game. The maps, I believe this time around, are even more convoluted and complex than in World, but they do look stunning. The complexity amplifies the issue of them being harder to navigate. Thus, now we have an automatic Uber ride to anywhere on the map. Call it the secret. After 60 hours of game time, I could not tell you where any gathering points or areas of interest are on the map. Not that you need to do gathering at all, since that part of the game was completely gutted in World. The secret removes all sense of connection to the map, but you're forced to use it, since if you take too long running to the monster, your teammates might actually kill it before you make it there. In addition to this, using the secret as a get out of jail free card when you get knocked down removes any semblance of consequence for getting hit, further diluting the game's combat. That leads us into the big topic everyone is talking about: difficulty. Everyone has said it already, the game is easy. Insanely easy. In my playtime, I've had zero sense of danger no matter what big attack a monster will throw out. I have a dislike for the sentiment that says the games aren't getting easier, you are getting better. While this is a good attempt at empowering others, it is fundamentally wrong. It has been tested that monsters do in fact less damage than in previous titles. See Gadget Hunter videos for some more in-depth talk about that. And in my personal experience, they topple over at a very high rate, flinch multiple times during hunts, and have next to zero resistance to paralysis, which at this time it's broken. All of this combined with how strong our hunters are, makes most fights completely trivial, and divulge into simply button mashing until the monster is dead, style that would have resulted in failure in prior games. Speaking of how strong our hunters are, the wound and focus system is fundamentally overpowered. Monsters take too much damage from wound strikes, and being able to aim wherever you want leads to no commitment in your moves. And what do I mean by that? For example, the Greatsword. You had to aim and time your charge slashes properly, or else you would whiff. Now you simply enter focus mode and are able to do a reposition and re-aim your strike. All of this would not be as much of an issue if monsters had more health and were more aggressive. But this is what we have, and we can only hope for title updates to bring any semblance of challenge back into the game. Now, I do not enjoy making this type of video criticizing a franchise I love so much, but I can't help but be worried about the direction that it's heading in. The saying here is, if it ain't broke, streamline it. And I wonder how much more streamlining we can have until the essence of Monster Hunter is gone. When veteran players say they want preparation back in the game, for example, we mean such things as remembering to take your cold and hot drinks, remembering to eat, making sure you have the right equipment for the hunt, gathering materials to improve your weapons and armor, as well as to craft items. This is what we mean by preparation, the part of the game that happens outside of the hunt. Not once in Wilds have I had to go out and get specific materials. It just felt like I had everything that I needed at all times. I recently started Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate save file, as I wanted to compare it to Wilds while it was still fresh in my mind. The contrast could not have been any more apparent. Monsters hit like a truck. I actually had to go and get materials to build armor. The preparation was mandatory, or you would risk making the hunt much harder. No restocking at camp, no damage numbers, no scout flies, maps were easy to navigate, you needed to eat before a hunt or else. Even in low rank, monsters hit very hard, and this is with me upgrading the armor sets I was crafting. I find it interesting that now fans that started with Monster Hunter World are voicing similar concerns to those voiced by veteran fans when the World was released. I'm simply making this comparison to highlight what Monster Hunter has lost in its chase for a mainstream audience and mass market appeal. It lost parts of what made it beloved amongst older fans for the sake of streamlining. And I want to end this on a positive note. at the time of writing, we have not seen the new more challenging monster coming in Title Update 1, or what the Gathering Hub is going to look like, but both are things that I'm very excited for and looking forward to. I'm sure Wilds will grow bigger and better with title updates and the inevitable G-Rank expansion a year out, and here's hoping that the team listens to the constructive feedback from fans for future releases. And if you're done with Wilds, but still craving more Monster Hunter, please go play Generations Ultimate. It is on sale right now, the roster is massive, and the online still works, so I'm sure there will be plenty of hunters ready to help you on your journey. So, that's all for me, have a good one, and happy hunting!